The last few months, I guess, off and on, I've been making all of these heads as, I guess, figure studies for a future project. Almost like casting with these heads, starting to take shape when I look at these figures. I kind of feel comfortable living in isolation or slightly detached from society. That's a trait that a lot of other cartoonists have, just being comfortable being alone for long stretches of time and just working. That comes with its own hazards, I think. You know, you're not seeing the world very accurately, and I think as time goes on, it only gets worse. Life outside of isolation or life with other people, going to a school or going to a job even, is like receding in memory. So acting class was like a way to get back in touch with that almost. I could understand like people who are kind of searching for it, for something new or a new experience, a shift in perspective as their life is kind of drifting on and they might be getting stuck in a certain rut. Even if like what they're doing is like maybe not always healthy. This is a page from acting class. I always draw everything at 200%. I've been doing that for years. I would start penciling on this side fairly lightly, and then on the light box, I can flip it over, kind of see my work underneath. You can notice some wonky drawing and imperfections and whatnot, and then flip it over, maybe do some more refining, and then ink all on the same page. I wish I could say there was a specific moment where something clicked, but I think it formed over a long period of time. It wasn't based on any one particular person or experience. It's like the most fictionalized thing I've ever done. So at some point it just became about a classroom. At a certain point acting just became the thing that seemed the most intriguing. When I started to think that this was going to be the next project, of course, the thing to do maybe would be to actually take an acting class, and that's just like beyond a possibility for me. That's never going to happen. Me and a couple cartoonist friends were taking figure drawing classes that you could just show up. I would always get a little nervous when I was leaving the house just because it was going out and drawing amongst other people and making conversation, but it would always feel good after. So I think that feeling kind of bled into acting class. There's a whole thread in the story about some people going to a figure drawing class, and then the model becomes a character in the book. I'll work on the book to its completion with the color and everything, but then I'll go back to the beginning and do a pretty harsh round of edits. With long book projects, it's seemingly unavoidable is that the characters change over time, or they just go through a transformation that you can't even really control. So by the time you go back to page 1, things don't match, or people's faces or hairstyles slightly change. So this one woman's, something about her face or her hair or something didn't work, so I pretty much redrew everything. It's hard to know what the right stopping point should be. Like, you know, there's like working hard and there's working smart, and sometimes this might not be working smart.
Kate and I bought this business 4 years ago. That was in April 2018. And then Nick's book, Sabrina, came out. And then Nick and I got married June 16th, Today's our 4-year anniversary. Do you want a receipt? No. Okay.
Nick and I met. We were working at a very popular health food store owned by the richest man in the world. Nick was the janitor and I was the flower girl working in the flower department. And then we exchanged zines because I make comics too and art. He was a janitor at a concert venue and then a janitor at the Field Museum. I think he's really attracted to kind of quiet, liminal spaces and just working quietly and methodically. Nick and I just like go about and live our life. It's a very quiet life of just like being at home and cooking and working on projects and making things. Then he makes a book and then you're like, oh, there's a tension on us. Oh my goodness, that's strange.
I had to decompress and just do something else after finishing Sabrina. I just had this thought that I would attempt glass painting, which I'd always wanted to do. I'm just painting reverse on the glass, starting with the lines first and kind of working backwards, leaving some of those areas unpainted and letting the shadows kind of cast on the background. The Chicago Images, the Harry Who, planted the seed that that's something that could even be done, which might have never occurred to me. The style had become so reductive in Sabrina, and it was really reinvigorating at the time. In my 20s or in my first two books, I was more hung up on like sparse interiors and really kind of bland. I would have used descriptive words like lifeless and soulless. Yeah, I wanted acting class to feel a bit more rich. I mean, it would still be kind of middle America, slightly drab and lower middle class. I kind of let myself just kind of add more richness to the backgrounds or to the character designs. I've never lived outside of Cook County, so it's just an ingrained landscape. I don't find a lot of it unattractive, but the landscapes, like a lot of it looks bad or just kind of bland or ugly. It makes it kind of easier to find the things that jump out to me, at least. It has no terrain, it's just the flatness has definitely become an inspiration. I think that's a lot of why I like draw in with these like stark vanishing points where you can almost see the vanishing points, because it's like a lot of these flat, long streets that just kind of almost go off to a point. Even with acting class, I thought maybe it wasn't really defined as a certain region, but now that I look back, it still looks very Midwestern. Probably, you know, very Chicago, even though it's not specifically in Chicago. I made like a dozen. A lot of them did become like the main cast, you could say, the main class. That's Gloria, the grandmother. This guy didn't turn into a character. Neither did she. It's funny that like, now that I'm looking at it, like, yeah, a lot of these didn't even become characters in the book, but somehow it was necessary to make a whole bunch. These weren't drawn like, okay, now I'm drawing this character named Rosie or whoever, and this is gonna be her story. It's like, I'm doing glass paintings that are kind of forming on their own, and then I'm writing, and that's forming on its own. Like when I'm really rolling in the process of a book, I'll be writing alongside drawing. It might take 5 or 6 days to write something and then 3 months to draw it. This portrait ended up becoming Beth, who is kind of a troubled character. She's kind of enigmatic. You know, you don't quite know where her mind is at through most of it, but there's like some alarming suggestions. These characters who are kind of alienated from the modern world or just kind of floating along without much direction. It's like all these people who do feel like kind of misfits.
we're just kind of, I don't know, depressive, anxious people. And we kind of bonded over that, and a lot of his characters have that, like, oh, that this person has this like pit of loneliness in them that I can relate to, and I think that's a vein throughout all of his books.